Good morning, good evening, good everything in between, wherever you are. Welcome to the podcast, episode 13. I'm your host, Jim Bobernicki, and I'm joined by Mr. Gabe Lerman. How you doing, Gabe?
Doing well, thanks. Nothing like stuffing a pill down your cat's gullet to really sell an evening, you know?
Yeah, okay. That's definitely one way to describe how your evening's going. And we are also joined by the impeccable Mr. Michael Beasley. How you doing, Michael?
I'm doing good, and Gabe, I know your pain. I have to fight with a parrot to give him 3 syringes of medication morning and night.
Oh my, are parrots basically flying cats, if you think about it in terms of sort of
They're
neediness?
flying 2-year-olds because they argue with you.
I think cats argue with you too, don't they, Gabe?
No, the saying goes cats used to be revered as gods back in Egypt, and they have
Hmm.
not forgotten that.
Okay, well, that's fair enough. Well, speaking of cats, very weird little transition over to the Hanshin Tigers and their home stadium, the Koshin Stadium. Happy 100th birthday, Koshin. And to sort of commemorate the big tournament kicking off this weekend, I decided to look into some draft prospects that will be playing at the big tournament. Now, I know we've already talked a lot about Rintaro Sasaki, and we will be keeping an eye on him. But today I was checking in some other players, and I learned about Yugo Maeda. Maeda is a left-handed pitcher from Osaka Toin Senior High School, which is one of the favorites to sort of win the whole tournament in the end. Looks to establish himself as one of the top prospects for this year's coming draft. I was watching some videos of his, and his fastball sits right now in the mid 80s, and he's got a solid repertoire of other stuff with a very nice changeup. And I was really impressed by that changeup because to me, the changeup is sort of, I find, more something players develop in university. And to see someone that young have such a clean changeup that's a total out pitch right now, I think he's going to make that a serious weapon at the next level. And so maybe he'll fill out and throw definitely into the 90s, and I think he could be a really good prospect. And we might see like whether him or Sasaki will be the top pick in the upcoming draft. Have you guys seen anything for him?
Not particularly, but the way you describe him, I mean, Osaka Toin is the school to beat in high school baseball. It's them and PL Gakuen, basically, who have been powerhouses for years and years. So hearing, a left-handed pitcher from Osaka Toin, yeah, that tracks. That should be a first round selection.
Yeah, and like I was saying, like his stuff just looks really solid. The only thing I was a bit concerned about is it seemed like his control was a bit off, even from the highlights I was watching. But if he can get that dialed in, like he looks really solid. And so that brings us over to our next set of news highlights. Gabe, what do you have for us this week?
I've got a slew of milestones worth celebrating. Congrats to Mike Brosseau for getting his first NPB hit in his third at bat on August 1st. Now, poor Mike's kind of been through the whirlwind lately. The same day his contract was announced, he landed in Japan. So it was real bang bang timing. That was back last week. And then 3 days later, he's in a game. Brosseau signed with the Marines after seasons with the Rays and Brewers organizations. The pundits are saying this lets Koki Yamaguchi return to corner outfield instead of handling first base. So it'll be interesting to see how he fits in. I think I hinted that, the Marines did have a foreign player slot available, and adding Brosseau is an excellent way to provide that spot. Congrats to Marines reliever Hirokazu Sawamura for reaching 1,000 career innings pitched. 896 of those in NPB, most of those with the Giants before his 2020 trade to Lotte, and 104 with the Boston Red Sox over the prior 2 seasons. The 35-year-old reached the mark on July 30th and remains a key piece in that Marines bullpen. A lot of Marines reaching milestones, by the way. Koshiro Wada, one of their outfielders, hit his first NPB home run back on July 29th. The 24-year-old has had a few top 20 plays appearances, but isn't exactly known for his slugging over the last 4 seasons with the top club. Hey, it earned him a hero interview. Lions legend Takumi Kuriyama got his 2,100th hit in his career, the 34th player in NPB history to reach the mark back on July 28th. The only other active player with that many hits, Giants shortstop Hayato Sakamoto. I also noticed that the player registration deadline has passed. That was back on July 31st, similar to the trade deadline, except for this, it's no new signings and no trades without passing through the waiver system. So that's why the Marines were scrambling to add Mike Brosseau just before that deadline. The NPB page for that also listed how many players each team has on their roster. What caught my eye, not only do the Hawks have a full 70-man organizational roster, they have 53 players on developmental contracts. No other Pacific League team has more than 15 developmental contracts or a full 70-man. So that, if you're ever wondering, hey, how come the Hawks field like a second level and a third level and a fourth level farm team? That's how they're employing a lot of people.
And Mike, did you have anything for us this week?
Yeah, I do. I saw an interesting article on Sports Navi, Yahoo, Japanese professional baseball news, whatever. It was an article about Katsuya Nomura and actually Yuma Tongu of Oryx. A surprising connection there. As you know, Yuma Tongu was a former catcher. He grew up with Yoshinobu Yamamoto as a child. I think they lived next door to each other. And it was Katsuya Nomura's beliefs on converting players to other positions. Katsuya Nomura, of course, in the Hall of Fame as a player and could probably go into the Hall of Fame as a manager as well. Throughout his career, he converted many players to different positions, such as Yutaka Inatsu, the Hall of Fame pitcher who he converted to a closer at one point later in his career. I thought it was a really interesting article because it talks about his belief of the right man in the right place, where he was always on the lookout to see where he could put somebody else or where somebody else belonged, even if they didn't know it yet, and how he would approach that player. He would go up to them and say, I think you'd be really good here, and here's my, kind of proof that you should try and do this. And he never missed. I don't have all the players off the top of my head, but it was just a really interesting way to see, a modern player, Yuma Tongu, go back and compare that to the methods of a Hall of Fame player and Hall of Fame manager, a Hall of Fame player of the 60s and 70s. I thought that was really interesting.
Yeah, that's pretty cool, actually. And so I think that brings us over to our first ad break. Take a listen. We'll be back in a moment.
So, you want to watch Pacific League games, but can't get up early during the week,
I work from home.
or stay up late enough on the weekends.
I have a life, you weirdos.
Not to worry, we've got you covered. FTF Sports broadcasts a game of the day with English commentary, Tuesdays through Sundays at 1 p.m. Eastern. Check your set-top box channel list or visit ftfsports.com for streaming options. With FTF, the Pacific League is finally on your schedule.
And so that brings us to our main segment of the evening, our Around the Horn segment, where we look at every team from top to bottom of the league and do a little in-depth analysis for each of them. And as I say every week, as we've grown quite accustomed to, we start off with the league-leading Oryx Buffaloes. Take it away, Gabe.
4 wins in a row after today's walk-off win over the Rakuten Eagles. The Oryx Buffaloes are now 7-3 in their last 10, 5 games up on the slightly skidding Marines. Now, Lotte still has 4 games in hand, true, but even if they win all of those, Buffalo still come out ahead. Part of that has been the ongoing success of Yoshinobu Yamamoto. He now leads all qualified pitchers in the Triple Crown categories, thanks to his 7 scoreless innings with 7 strikeouts yesterday, which scoots him just ahead of Atsuki Taneichi of the Marines. Taneichi may be the only thing stopping Yoshinobu Yamamoto from an unheard of, unprecedented, historical 3rd Triple Crown in a row. There's a reason I call him the ace of aces. He is just that dominant. Also dominant, his rotation mate, left-handed starter Hiroya Miyagi. He's been climbing the weekly leaderboards too. 2nd in opponent batting average, 2nd in whip, 4th in FIP. He's been a very reliable piece of this starting rotation and has been since his Rookie of the Year campaign. So between those two, and then you add in Yamashita, Yamaoka, Yamazaki, yeah, that Oryx rotation is dominant. And it's helped by the fact that they still continue to lead the Pacific League in batting average. Yuma Tongu's bat is starting to cool off. I'm glad we brought him up before. He's only leading the batting race by 0.001 over Yuki and Agita. But keeping pace with them now is shortstop Kotaro Kurebayashi, who is now batting .295 at the start of this week's game. The guy who got the walk-off hit against the Eagles today, Tokumasa Chano, a rookie who was originally a developmental contract player, was registered and given jersey number 61 at the start of the season. Chano has batted leadoff for a good long portion of this season, and it's great to see that he's continuing to help the Buffaloes. The last thing for the Buffaloes, someone on Twitter spotted this. 2 bullpen pitchers for the Buffaloes, Soichiro Yamazaki and Jacob Wagispak, have apparently been sharing pitching clips via direct messages on Instagram. We know this because Soichiro posted a story to Instagram showing a picture of those DMs, including Jacob Wagispak pointing out, trying to translate from Japanese to English in English characters. I mean, it's a good way to improve one's language skills, too, if you think of it that way.
And so that brings us over to the second place team in the league, the Chiba Lodi Marines. Take it away, Mike.
2-3 since last Thursday, the last time we recorded this thing. Games are kind of weird right now. I swear I look at the standings or the schedule and I'm like, oh, there's one team playing today, two teams playing today, or two games today. And then it's just like one game. I don't know what's going on right now. Thankfully, not losing too much ground thanks to SoftBank doing their best to hand them second place and possibly hand some other team third place.
It's so bad.
Recently, Manabu Mima pitched the shortest game of the season by far. Well, shortest as in only went 2 1/3 innings, allowed 7 hits, 5 runs, 3 earned, 1 walk. Very Mima-esque, I'd want to say. I hope that at some point fixes whatever is going on. Don't really know what's going on there. Maybe it could just be age, whatever. But on the bright side, Taiki Tojo returned and pitched his first game after battling an ankle injury. And he pitched a scoreless inning with 2 Ks. And the thing about that is, I like Masato Yoshi as a manager for Lotte because he always seems to find a highlight in the worst losses possible. Like Lotte could have a really bad game, get shut out, get blown out, whatever. And, he'll acknowledge that, say, we have to focus on this, we have to move on. But then it's not like, some other managers, he'll be like a cop out, like, oh yeah, we lost, but this guy did this. He'll find something small and be like, I'm really proud of, for example, Taiki Tojo going 2 scoreless, even though the game seems to be falling apart. A game could fall apart and someone could get 4 hits and he'll still find something, good to go, or it's a positive out of every outcome. And on the subject of Mike Brasso, I hope everybody that comes over does really well. But for Lotte, I see this ending 2 ways. I've said it before. One, he's okay, and maybe you don't see him back next year. Or one, he's amazing, and then next offseason, SoftBank goes, ooh, that is mine now. I like that. I want that. They've done that with Alfredo Despaigne, Roberto Osuna, Lee Sung-yup, way back in the 2000s, and a couple more over the years. So if he does really well, I would not be surprised to see him on SoftBank next year.
I'm glad you brought up Masato Yoshi's managerial style. We hear a lot about the next breed of Japanese managers. Tsuyoshi Shinjo also seems to have that kind of positivity, or at least exude that. And then, of course, there's Satoshi Nakajima, who leads the Buffaloes. I wonder if we're seeing a changing of perspective, especially in the Pacific League, in terms of how managers operate their clubs and the respect and that they give their players.
Yeah, I would think so. Japanese managers have been historically pretty hard on players from what I've read, and some old OBs, as they call them, that I've talked to. And it is really nice to be seeing that. I have noticed that with Shinjo as well. He always seems to find something nice. And even Iguchi, who is no longer the manager, he always seemed to have that. And of course, newfound Hall of Famer Rami-chan always had that as well.
And as you mentioned, sort of to the tail end of your point there, the SoftBank Hawks are a team that are doing their best to hand another team third place because the suffering continues with the SoftBank franchise. 1-4 since we last spoke, and the offense is back to sputtering. Just it's completely anemic, honestly. Being shut out in back-to-back games by the Lions at time of recording, and even in the one win they had this week, it was an extra inning win against the Marines. It's as hard as possible right now for SoftBank fans to just have faith in anything because it's catastrophic. There's no explanation for it. Pitching is not doing that well either. Obviously, starters are regularly getting hit around the park. The bullpen isn't providing any relief anymore. And the Hawks are dangerously close to having a losing record right now. At the time of recording, they're 46-44. And while, they are still in third place and they have a bit of a lead on the teams beneath them, things are really dicey if they don't get it together soon. And Seibu and Rakuten are hot on their heels, which I didn't think I would say at any point this season. It's been a tumultuous, just catastrophe for the Hawks lately. And on the other side of that coin, we can go over to a team who things haven't been so bad for, the Rakuten Golden Eagles. Take it away, Mike.
Golden Eagles, not surging so far in August, the 2 days that it's been, 3 days in Japan. 3-3 since we last spoke on Thursday. Perhaps slowing down compared to their boost of momentum in July? Probably not. Just a small roadblock. The Fighters are coming off of a massive losing streak. They did play against them, and the Fighters did take a few games from them, so that probably didn't help. Them getting the momentum back in their favor. But Asamura is still leading the team in any offensive stat you can find at this point. One change in the team leaders, Norimoto is now leading the team in pretty much every pitching stat imaginable, other than holds and saves. I predict still good things are happening for Rakuten. I think for them to make a final push or for them to go big and deep into the postseason, Tanaka's going to have to find his old form once again, as we saw in the last Baseball for Breakfast. We do that. That's still up on the channel. Go watch it.
That's true. Go watch it. Also, check out the next one, August 8th.
Go watch all of them. But yeah, he was pretty good for a few innings, and then it just all fell apart, it seemed. And that's that.
And that's that. All right. And so that brings us over to a team I have a lot more energy about, I got a lot more excitement about, the Saitama Seibu Lions, the hot team on the block now. They've been playing great as of late, going 4-2 over the last week and getting a bunch of close wins over solid teams. And David McKinnon's been contributing really well lately. He's been getting on base constantly, getting on base every game so far over the last week, and has also picked up another home run and a couple RBIs. Pitching's been really good lately. The bullpen hasn't had too many collapses. And a special shout out I want to give to Kaito Yozawa, a submarine pitcher, and I love me a submarine pitcher. He pitched the fastest game of the season this year at 2 hours and 8 minutes, just shredded through the Hawks. I think that's more of a Hawks thing than a him thing. How bad the Hawks have been lately, but kudos to him for doing such a great game. And now, despite all this, despite how good the record's been, they are still 6 games below 500, and that's a lot of ground to make up to get to third place, especially because they have to get through Rakuten and the Hawks to get there. But I don't know. Maybe they can. Maybe they found their mojo, and maybe the Hawks have totally forgotten how to play baseball, and maybe Rakuten will regress to the mean they were at before. You never know. It's a long season, and the Lions seem to be picking up steam at the right time. Maybe they make a really unexpected push to the playoffs. We'll have to keep an eye on that.
It's going to be a fun finish. Yeah, nothing's written in stone. I really want to call out Kaito Yoza as well for his stat line. Only 2 hits, no walks, 4 strikeouts, so very efficient use of his submarine arsenal ground ball pitcher. Second best start according to game score that a Lions pitcher has thrown so far this season. The only one better, Tatsuya Imai's 11 strikeout complete game shutout.
Yes. Was that against the Marines?
Can't remember.
I think that anyway. I recall seeing that game though. Yeah, that was a phenomenal performance. And that brings us over to the bottom of the league, the basement dwellers at the moment, unfortunately, the Hokkaido Nippon Ham Fighters. Take it away, Gabe.
Hey, I don't mind doing the bookends here. It's kind of fun. The Fighters are getting their footing back a little bit. 5-5 in their last 10, back-to-back wins on the road against the Marines. So after a ridiculously tough July, hey, maybe the Fighters are starting to get their feet back under them. On the weekly leaderboard, some interesting entrants at certain spots. Takayuki Kato, the control freak, the amazing pitcher who does not walk anyone, is now 5th in ERA at 2.61 and 4th in WHIP at 1.061. Not bad for a soft tosser. On the batting side, Chusei Manami is stuck at 15 home runs, but now sits 4th in RBIs in the Pacific League at 45 and 5th in OPS at 812. Also, I spotted this. Ryota Isobata, the Fighters' designated speed demon, now has 13 stolen bases on the season. Good for a distant 4th behind the Lions' Shuta Tonosaki, the Eagles' Hiroto Kobukata, and the Hawks' Ukyo Shuto, all tied at 19. The other thing I wanted to point out in the milestones, congrats to midseason acquisition James Marvel on his first NPB win, and his father was in attendance at Zozo Marine Stadium for the game. Kudos to the Fighters organization for making that possible. Marvel got the win with 5 scoreless innings in relief of Kenta Uehara, only allowing 3 hits and a walk, striking out 4, as the Fighters survived a blown 5-2 lead to win 8-6 earlier today. The 29-year-old debuted last month after leaving the Texas Rangers organization, and he was previously pitching with the Pirates and Phillies organizations. Last thing that I caught, this is kind of just a fun little thing. The Fighters are hosting a free baseball work experience for school kids at Kamagaya Stadium, where their minor league team plays, all throughout summer vacation. I know we don't have many, if any, listeners in Japan, but it's still pretty cool that the Fighters are putting this on. Kids can learn how to be a camera operator, a ball boy, customer reception, even a DJ assistant. And of course, hang out with all the mascots that the Fighters employ. It's an interesting little outreach approach. I know the Blue Jays, because they have all of Canada to represent, do a winter tour during their off season where they'll have activities for the kids across the country. Nice to see the Fighters are starting to get some attention in the Tokyo area where their minor league team continues to play. Let's not forget they started in Tokyo too.
Why does it have to be kids only? I want to be a camera operator. That's not fair. I want to do those things.
Sorry, that's $20,000 tuition.
Yeah, in your province, not mine.
Please understand.
Sorry, buddy, that's 80,000.
Nope, it's more like 2. Get wrecked. And so that
Oui,
brings us. Oui, oui, oh, yes, except I have to do it in français, and that makes me very triste. And so that brings us over to our final ad break of the evening. Take a listen.
Every day across America, thousands of baseball fans are starving for live games because they're stuck working the night shift. They can't watch games live and are left to scavenge for highlight reels on YouTube. It doesn't have to be this way. For just 1,500 yen per month, you can sponsor a shift worker to get access to Pacific League TV. Live broadcasts, including farm team games, with start times between midnight and 5 a.m. Eastern, all blackout free. Your subscription also includes a decade's worth of full game videos on demand. Please find it in your heart to give the joy of Pacific League TV to the fans in your life. Visit pacificleague.com to sign up.
And so that brings us over to one of our final segments of the evening. How are familiar faces doing stateside? Gabe, take it away.
I know we talk a lot about Shohei Ohtani.
We should.
I know, but it's with good reason. Back on July 27th, the Los Angeles Angels had a doubleheader up against the Detroit Tigers. Ohtani pitched a complete game shutout, the first of his MLB career in game 1. And then later that same day, in the second game, hits 2 home runs. I'm running out of superlatives here, folks. It's just ridiculous what he's doing. The other thing I caught over in the National League, former Fukuoka SoftBank Hawk Kodai Senga has been earning some plaudits for his infamous ghost forkball. It is the lowest slugging percentage allowed on any individual pitch type this season. Batters are only slugging 137 off the ghost fork. The other pitches in that company, Blake Snell's curveball, Sonny Gray's sweeper, Shane McClanahan's changeup, and Josh Hader's sinker. So that's a kind of incredible pitch that the ghost fork is. I mean, yeah, the Mets are kind of like rejigging their roster, so Senga is going to be carrying a lot more of the pitching workload. But hey, I can think of worse pitchers to build around.
And so that brings us over to our question of the day from both us and you, our listeners. Please comment your answers to this question. If you were to go to Japan and visit a Pacific League stadium, which one would you guys choose? Gabe, I'll start with you.
Hotomoto Field, Kobe, in part because I'm a Buffaloes fan, but also I visited all 12 ballparks back in 2019, except Hotomoto because it's an alternate field for the Buffaloes. They only use it for a handful of series each year. Plus, whenever the Tigers take over Kyocera Dome because of Koshien taking place, the Buffaloes' home games take place at Hotomoto Field, Kobe. So that's my choice.
Okay, yeah, that's actually a really good answer. And Michael, what about you?
Assuming that I cannot say Zozo Marine Stadium. Also,
No,
I've
you
been
can.
there.
I mean, yeah, I mean, if you want to go again, it's up to you.
Would be nice. Disregarding Zozo Marine Stadium, I would say Kyocera Dome just because I like how it looks on TV.
Fair
I
enough.
don't know. Home runs seem really cool bouncing off that screen, up in the sweet boxes or whatever. And I've been outside Kyocera Dome during spring training, but they had so many players that were on I think at that point they were split between Okinawa and the teams that were playing in Kyocera Dome, so I didn't bother to go. Yeah, I'd say probably Kyocera Dome.
Okay, fair enough. And for me, I'm really torn between how you asked me last year for it's definitely the Balloonadome. There's something that just seems really cool about it. I love the architecture. I really want to see the area. It seems like a really cool place to watch a baseball game. But then this year, ever since Escon Field opened up, that just looks like the greatest ballpark in human history. So I kind of really want to go there too. But so I'm really torn between those two. Also, I would like to really go to Cochin Stadium, but that's not a Pacific League stadium, unfortunately. And so, please do comment your answers too. You can pick any stadium you want, but preferably a Pacific League one, because let's face it, we got a lot of great stadiums in the Pacific League. That brings us to the end of today's show. I'd like to thank my fellow guests for joining me as always, and hope you have a wonderful week, and we'll see you next time. Take care.